Hello, I am Lauri Ann Lumby, and this is The Way of Love. The Way of Love video and podcast is an inspirational journey into the ultimate purpose of our lives, to remember our true nature as love. Gathering wisdom and insights from ancient wisdom traditions, I will piece together and present the knowledge and tools we need to transcend division and return to love. What begins as an individual journey blossoms into a movement that has the potential to change our whole world. Be that love and be the change. Again, I'm Lauri Ann Lumby, and this is The Way of Love. And this video podcast, the topic of which will be why. Why am I offering this series of videos in support of humanity's continued unfolding? The why is simple. We are living through a profoundly challenging time in our human evolution. Now, the human experience has never been easy, and every time has its own kind of challenge. But we have reached a point in our human evolution where we are very quickly approaching what might be our own extinction. An extinction that is very sadly by our own hands. Our actions are destroying our planet, and that alone would be enough for us to become extinct on this sphere that circles around the sun. But that is a symptom of why we have brought ourselves to the edge of our own extinction, or rather the how. And the how is because of what I call profound division, profound separation. As human beings, we have come to a place where we are increasingly divided. Now, humanity has always been divided in one way, shape, or form or another, whether that be by clan or tribe, by physical appearance, what some might call race, by religion, by nation, by town and village, by politics. This division seems to be increasing at a cataclysmic level. But is it really increasing division, or is the truth, the reality of how profoundly we are divided, simply coming more and more into our sight? The events of the past several years have peeled away layers of what I might call evil or profound woundedness that is resulting in excruciatingly non-loving behavior. This evil, this non-loving behavior has probably always been here, but has been carefully veiled, carefully hidden from our sight. Or perhaps we've simply been in denial of it. Or we have not been self-aware enough to even notice that this division is taking place. Or perhaps we've been so preoccupied with our own individual survival that we haven't had time or attention to see what's really happening beneath the surface of our world. In the past several years, those veils have been torn away. And we are to a point now where we can't not see it. And if we are in denial of this profound separation, this profound division, then I might suggest that we are being willfully ignorant. This division is at the heart of all that we are struggling with as a species. And again, this division has become so great that we are approaching our very own extinction. Some might suggest that that extinction is inevitable and imminent, and that with global warming, climate change, war, and other things that are threatening our very existence, some might suggest that that extinction is coming quite quickly, and that we have reached the point where the damage that we have done is irreparable. I, for one, do not agree that we cannot turn the ship around. I am of the profound belief and hope that as a species we can do what we need to do first to heal the wounds that have created this division and separation in the first place. And the way to healing those wounds begins with our own inner journey. Secondly, I believe that as we as individuals heal those wounds, and that more and more of us do that, that we will reach a level of collective consciousness where we will reach critical mass in such a way that our very world itself will begin to change. That the systems with which we have become familiar, the institutions that have conditioned and enslaved us, the ways in which we live and have our being on this plane, that all of those might be transformed because we have taken on this work within ourselves and invited others to do the same. We are also at a place in our human experience where I believe, because the symptoms seem pretty obvious, I believe that we are bearing witness to the collapse of a hierarchical, patriarchal system that has enslaved us. And I first want to say that by using the term patriarchal, I don't mean anti-man. I love men. What I mean is a system that privileges a specific gender and a system that privileges that gender as authority and over others. Perhaps a better way to describe that is that we are facing the death of the systems that have been built on fear, power, oppression, and with the intention to control. These top-down oppressive systems are unsustainable by their very nature, because they create division. They get their power through fear and manipulation. They seek to oppress the majority so that the minority might benefit. And in this case, the minority is those who benefit from the current system. And that benefit can most easily be identified by wealth. Not that wealth in and of itself is a bad thing. Wealth that is coveted and hoarded and squirreled away and is clung to and gathered and piled up, and that benefits no one but the holder, is the kind of wealth I'm speaking of. These systems of fear, power, oppression, and control are in their own collapse. We can recognize that collapse because they no longer work. These systems no longer work in the way that they were originally designed, and they no longer work in the way that they continue to try to exist. Some of the institutions that we can look at as symptoms of this dying culture, of this dying empire, if you will, is governance. A government that is no longer of the people, by the people, for the people, if it ever was. A government that is no longer representing the needs of the common good, if it ever did. A government instead that serves the desires and wants of those who are funding and padding the pockets of those that we have elected. Special interest groups that manipulate policy for their own design, for their own benefit, and not to support the needs of the people. Education. The education system in the United States, for example, was originally established, created to make, condition obedient factory workers. It is an industrial age model. Well, of course, there are some exceptions to that. Visionary educational institutions, charter schools, and schools within a school that have found their way around the bureaucracy of the current system to better meet students where they're at and to better meet the needs of a changing culture. But the truth is that the vast majority of our educational institutions, and that's K through college, are still wrapped up in a certain specific paradigm. And that paradigm is failing. Not only is it failing our culture, our changing culture, that is no longer reliant on manufacturing specifically, or is no longer manufacturing reliant, but is moving more and more towards creativity, innovation, technology. The current educational model does not fit the needs of the culture or our world. It is not meeting the needs of a changing environment, a changing student population, a population that is more diverse than it has ever been before. Diversity not only on race, but income, creed, nationality, and language. Universities, high schools, grade schools are unable under the current model to meet the needs of this growing diversity that we are experiencing in our world. Additionally, it is no longer able to meet the needs of an intelligent, diverse population that has access to information in a way that it never had access to before. Another example is our medical system. We are gifted with profound medical technology, and yet so many people continue to go unserved or underserved. The cost of healthcare is staggering and inaccessible to a vast majority of the population. As healthcare becomes more and more corporatized and focused on profits and money and CEO salaries and stockholder shares, the needs of the patients go untended, overlooked, ignored. Banking and finance. We live in a time of extremely volatile currency, money, economy. Taking a look at the US economy specifically, we are an economy based no longer in oil or gold. We are an economy based in debt. Now, I remember the imaginary numbers that we learned in grade school, the negative numbers. They're called imaginary numbers for a reason. And that debt that in some way, shape, or form funds our economy, that's imaginary dollars, imaginary numbers. It is not a foundation for an economy. It is a house of cards ready to collapse. Those are just a few examples, a few symptoms of our world that is in collapse. And the way of love provides us with a means by which we might begin to be empowered. Number one, to survive the collapse of this empire. To gather around ourselves the tools, the resources, the information, the knowledge that can help us weather the dramatic, cataclysmic changes that are happening in our world every single day. The way of love illuminates processes and tools that not only help us to be resilient in the face of dramatic change, but also to remain detached. Not in a way that excuses our involvement, because we are, as members of the human species, responsible for doing something to help heal and transform our world. But these tools will give us the resources by which we will not be destroyed or taken down by the anxiety, the anger, the fear, the violence that is sure to be a part of an empire in collapse. The way of love also supports us in gathering with people of like mind, finding those who are speaking a similar language, who are seeking a common goal, who want to be a part of healing, transforming, and ultimately changing our world. The death of the empire is inevitable, but there is already something new coming forth. Do you see it? The way of love shows us how to see. and how to see with compassion and love and forgiveness. The way of love creates an opportunity to connect. We are not, as individuals, an island. In fact, we are a species that thrives when we live as a pack, or a clan, or a tribe. We thrive in community, and we need that community for encouragement, support, inspiration, cooperation, and collaboration. We cannot bury the dying world or bring forth the new without each other's support. And finally, the way of love creates a beacon of hope and inspiration, comfort and guidance for those who are also seeking comfort in a time of cataclysmic change, exciting change, a time in which the world as we have known it is dying and a new world is coming into form. So I invite you to participate in these video and podcasts of the way of love. I invite you to share your thoughts and discussion. I invite you to reach out for support. The journey of building a new world starts with each of us as individuals, starts by healing the wound of division and separation within ourselves, of restoring and healing all of those places within us that have forgotten that we are love. It begins as an individual journey. But as we do that work for ourselves, it blossoms into something that becomes a movement that has the potential to change our whole entire world. The way of love supports you in being that love and being that change. And if you'd like to learn more about all of the services and programs that we offer at Soul School, please check out our website at www.lauriannlumby.com, and the link is provided below or on whatever podcast service you are viewing or listening to this webcast. Thank you. And I am Lauri Ann Lumby, and this is The Way of Love.